Welcome to the 30-Day Agent Launch Plan presented by the Independent Life Insurance Agent Association at ILIAA.org. Today we're going to talk about getting licensed, contracted, and starting selling now. Alright, so what we're going to cover today is going to be a lot of different topics. We're going to go through getting your insurance license from day one, how to contract with different insurance carriers, how to get your business set up, how to start marketing and finding prospects, and once you find those prospects, how to choose a policy for them, how to help them apply for that policy and close the sale, how to cross-sell additional products, and some best practices that you can put in to work for you today to boost your career to the next level from day one. Our goals here today: if you're a brand new agent, we want to take you from pre-licensing to sales in 30 days. Now, if you're an established agent in a field other than life insurance, we want to help you get comfortable learning to market life insurance to your existing book of business. So, no matter your level of experience, hopefully you're going to find something useful today in this webinar. If you're a brand new agent, you're going to find a lot of use here. Now, before we begin at all, and before you begin with the process of getting licensed as a brand new agent, let's take a step back and figure it out. Is this going to be right for you? This is, let's be honest, not an easy job. If you're an independent agent, you're not going to get up in the morning and put on your suit and go to work and have your boss tell you what to do. As an independent agent, you own your business. You call the shots. When you wake up in the morning, you don't have your boss putting a project on your desk and saying, this is your task for today. You're the boss. You decide what that task for the day is. That's incredibly liberating. It's a great life to live, I'm not going to lie. But it's pretty hard to get started too, and it does take a lot of motivation and drive. You really need to take a step back, look in that mirror, and ask yourself, is this something I'm going to be willing to stay committed to long enough to see it through? The brutal reality is that over 90% of agents will fail within 5 years of starting a career as an insurance agent. The fact that you're here today tells me you're probably in that other 10% that's going to be all right, because the agents that tend to succeed are the ones that dedicate themselves consistently to education and to bettering themselves, staying ahead of that curve. Here's a way to look at it that really stuck with me early in my career and really helped me become a better agent much more quickly than I otherwise might have. If you sit in front of your TV for an hour a night, every night, and you watch, whatever, The Simpsons, after a while you're going to be an expert on The Simpsons. And if you sit here in front of your laptop, in front of your computer every night, and you dedicate yourself to education and bettering your career as an agent, well, eventually you're going to be an expert on the field of insurance. Dedicate yourself now, get that learning curve over more quickly and smooth it out, and you're going to find that your career not only starts quicker, but that it's more successful in the long term. Now, I am preaching to the choir a little bit. Like I said, the fact that you're here watching this webinar tells me that you're in that other 10%. It's probably going to be all right. But you do need to take this close look. You also want to make sure you've got a little bit of marketing capital set aside. The fact is, if you take your pre-licensing course today and we have you selling a policy 30 days from now, the policy is going to have to go through underwriting. It's going to have to get approved. Once it's approved, they're going to have to get commissions sent out to you. It's not going to be an immediate paycheck. You've got to have capital in the bank to keep the lights on at home. You can't go into this dead broke. You have to be able to pay your bills while you're waiting for those first commissions to roll in. Not only that, but you got to be able to keep marketing yourself while you're waiting for those first commissions to roll in. You can't just spend all your money the first day you're in business and sit around and hope more clients show up so that you don't go out later. You need to have a consistent marketing budget that's going to allow you to form a steady flow of prospects to your front door. And that's something we can help you do, and that's something we're going to discuss in this webinar here. But I want you to remember that everything we talk about here today in the 30-Day Agent Launch Plan, we're just scratching the surface. We're just scratching the barest surface. Everything you see on here today, if you come visit us at ILIAA.org, every point you see us make, we're going to go a lot more into depth in that member section of our webinar archives. And if you need some one-on-one help, as a member, of course, you've got that one-on-one unlimited training anytime you want it. And that does include us helping you make a business plan to make sure that your career is starting on track from day one. So let's say that you've looked in the mirror You've got marketing capital, you've got support, you've got drive, it's right for you, you have realistic expectations. Let's get things going. There are a couple of essential products that you as an agent are going to need to buy in order to make it as a success from day one. Number one is a reliable internet connection and computer. And you're probably already set with that because you're watching this webinar. But the fact is, if you don't have a reliable way to take applications online and communicate online with your different underwriting departments and with your clients, you're going to find yourself getting behind the 8 ball pretty quickly. If you're having to go up to Starbucks and use their wireless on your laptop, not a good situation. It's also a little bit better, by the way, if you're sending those emails from a professional email address. It costs $10 to register a domain name at most. And if you want, the Independent Life Insurance Agent Association can even help you build out a website. But it's much, much better, much more professional when a client gets an email from, Nick at nicksinsuranceBrokerage.com or whatever, rather than, Nick the Insurance Dude at gmail.com. That little touch of professional, and I know it probably sounds a little bit silly, but you'll be surprised how many agents will not go the extra mile to make themselves stand out. Remember, there's a lot of agents out there. You got to do the little things to make yourselves stand out from the pack. So you want to also make sure you've got an unlimited phone plan. I know a lot of us are on cell phones today rather than a landline, and if that's the case, that's totally okay. Just make sure you're not going to run out of minutes while you're talking to a client. And like we'd said in a previous slide, make sure that you've got a handle on your living expenses and your marketing capital to make sure that you're not going to go broke waiting for these first commissions to roll in the door. And again, if you want some help setting up that marketing budget, if you want some help setting up that business plan, it's a service we provide at iliaa.org. Now let's get licensed. Depending on what state you're in, your pre-licensing requirements are going to vary slightly. Some states, most states, are going to let you do your pre-licensing online. And if you can do that, it's really easy. Hop online, go through a couple of little courses and an exam at the end. You get your certificate and you're good to go. You're officially pre-licensed. If you want to do that online and you're in a state that allows online pre-licensing, I'd again suggest visiting iliaa.org. We do offer discounts on online pre-licensing nationwide in the states that do allow online pre-licensing courses. Some states, Arkansas springs to mind at the time of this recording, require you to do your pre-licensing in a brick-and-mortar classroom on the weekend. So if that's the case, the best thing to do there is to check your Department of Insurance website and see what exam locations they have available. If you're not sure if your state's one that requires a brick-and-mortar classroom or not, give us a call and we'll let you know. Once you've done your pre-licensing course, you'll have your pre-licensing certificate, and you'll be officially ready to take your licensing exam. So check your Department of Insurance website for your state and find where your next licensing exam is going to be held. Give them a call, reserve a spot, head out and take that exam. Once you're done, you're done. Some states are going to require you after this point to get a licensed sponsor. It's very, very easy to do this, and once you get contracted, the process of contracting is automatically going to get you a sponsor. So if you're in a state where you have to worry about getting a licensed sponsor, don't worry over much about that. It's kind of going to happen naturally. So we've checked our state DOI for the exam proctor locations. We're at our licensing exam. We're getting in there. We're taking this exam. Maybe we're running into a few questions that are throwing us for a loop. Two things to keep in mind. Number one, the online and in brick-and-mortar pre-licensing courses that you take are typically going to come with some type of practice exam. If you can pass that practice exam, you're going to be just fine on the licensing exam, because a practice exam is usually about twice as hard as the actual one, as the actual licensing exam you'll take. If you get to that licensing exam and you're ever in doubt, just pick the answer that protects the client the most. And once you get through your licensing exam, if you pass, they'll give you your license, you'll be good to go. Now, you've got your insurance license, you don't have any contracts to sell products though. You don't work with anybody. You need to get a couple of insurance carriers lined up so you can actually get some folks insured. Now, you might think the easiest way to do this would just be to figure out whatever insurance company you want to contract with and then give them a call. If you want to sell products with Protective Life, just call Protective Life. It seems like it'd be easy, but unfortunately it doesn't really work that way. The vast majority of insurance carriers do not want to deal directly with agents. That's a lot of customer service work that they're not interested in doing. So they essentially outsource it to organizations we call IMOs. Now, the letters IMO, that stands for Insurance Marketing Organization. And you may hear a lot of different letters to represent this position. You may hear IMO, you may hear FMO for Field Marketing Organization, you may hear a GA, who is a general agent. It's typically going to be a recruiter that works at an IMO. You may find a BGA, a brokerage general agent, which is like a superpowered GA. You might find a wholesaler, who is again someone that works at an IMO. There are a lot of different labels that can be put on this, and frankly, for a brand new agent, this is probably one of the most confusing steps of getting started. It's taking a licensing exam. It's on the Department of Insurance website. You can probably figure it out. Getting contracted is a real pain if you've never done it before, because it's really tremendously confusing. And the fact is, all these different IMOs that you're calling, they want your business. They're not going to help you out with a lot of information about how other IMOs work or why you might want to work with them. So, first thing you do when you want to get set up with contracts is figure out what carriers you're interested in contracting with. You don't need to pick up 40 or 50 different carriers at once. Pick 3 or 4. You're going to get contracts for them, marketing materials for them, and you'll get your wheels turning a little bit. And then if you need carriers after that, we can pick up a few more. But once we've figured out what our first handful of carriers are going to be, we're going to find an IMO, an insurance marketing organization. And this is essentially just a middleman between us and the insurance company. The insurance company doesn't want to deal directly with us as agents. They want to deal with just a handful of large IMOs and outsource the job of dealing with individual agents to those IMOs. So, basically how it works here is the insurance company is going to give that IMO a contract to sell all of their products. So let's say, life insurance company A gives IMO A a contract that says, hey, if you sell our term life insurance product, it's going to pay you a commission of 120%. You as an agent come to that IMO, and remember that IMO has a contract with life insurance company A, and they can sell that term policy for 120% commission. So you come to that IMO as an agent and you say, hey, I want a contract with life insurance company A because I hear their term life insurance product is really good. I want to get set up with them. And the IMO you're speaking with says, fantastic, we've got a contract with life insurance company A. I'll set you up, and if you sell their term life insurance product, you'll make a commission of 95%. So you can see in this example, the IMO would be making an override of 25% every time that agent wrote a policy. Because you the agent, you write the policy, you're making 95%. That other 25% is going to that IMO. Because remember, they had that 120% contract. Now this is fair, and this is how it's typically set up. Those IMOs they earn their money. The fact that they're working as that middleman for you, there's a lot of liability they take on, and that override typically is fairly earned. However, it's always worth double-checking commissions. Some IMOs, unfortunately, will take a little bit more than their fair share, and you do always want to make sure that you're getting paid at a level that's commensurate with what you deserve. In fact, selecting an IMO is a fairly important step in your career as an agent because it's going to be a business relationship that sticks with you for a very, very long time. The IMOs you work with are going to determine what carriers you have access to and what commission levels you receive. Many IMOs are going to offer training and support and leads as well. That's a relationship that's going to be very important to your career. Now, what do you want out of an IMO? Well, remember a minute ago we talked about the fact that these IMOs earn their override. And that's fine. You write a piece of business, you make a commission, they make a little cut too. That's fine. How are they earning that override? Well, the big thing they're doing is they're taking on that liability of all those different agents out there. They're pooling that production so they can earn that high contract and then give you a contract as well. So there's that, and that's a big thing. And in an ideal world, that's the only thing your IMO would do. Because anything else your IMO does, they're going to charge you for it. If your IMO says we're going to give you training, well, you can better believe that your commissions are going to be a little bit lower because of all the extra man hours they're having to put in to get that training put out to you. That stuff doesn't come free. They say they're going to give you support. No IMO gives their top contracts to an agent and they have to hold their hand on every case. Training and support are things that you can get elsewhere. And here's another thing to think about too. Remember how we said those IMOs that make a little bit of a cut every time you write business? Think about the training you're getting there. Think about the fact that, hey, life insurance company A offers me a 25% override, but life insurance company B offers me a 35% override. Is that training going to be unbiased? Is the support you get going to be designed to work in the best interest of you and your client, or in the best interest of the IMO? Some IMOs are very, very straight up and very, very ethical, and some are not. And unfortunately, some start off very ethical and go down a dark path. The point here is that when you're selecting an IMO, my recommendation is to choose an IMO that gives you the best contract you can get and nothing else. You don't want their training, because they're going to charge you for it. You can get better unbiased training elsewhere. A little bit of a shameless plug there for iliaa.org. You don't want their support. You can get the same support elsewhere without the bias and without having to pay nearly as much for it. You don't want leads from an IMO. A lot of IMOs out there tout their lead programs and say, we have leads, we can give you as an agent leads, that's great. Why do you want that? The fact is, if you're getting leads, you're paying for that somehow. You're either paying cash per lead, you're taking a cut on your commissions. In some way, those leads are not free. Those leads are coming to you, and you are paying for them in one way or another, whether it's a direct payment or it's on the back end out of your commissions. Not only that, but why do you want to rely on your IMO to generate your leads? They don't have a magic bullet. The stuff they're doing to generate leads is stuff you can do as well. And if you're generating those leads, then you control them. That means that the best leads, the top quality leads, don't get kept by the IMO to write themselves, or sent off to their top producers to make sure that they've got the best chance of being closed. If you're working with an IMO to get your leads, you can never really be sure what quality of leads you're getting, if you're getting the best of the bunch or if they're getting skimmed before they get to you. Learn to generate your own leads. I'm not saying every IMO is out to steal from you. I'm not even saying that most IMOs would do this. But the fact is, you can generate your own leads using the same techniques they use. You can learn to do that. We can teach you to do that. And when you do that, you're going to take control of that part of the business. You're going to make sure that you've got the highest quality leads every time. And you're not going to be beholden to somebody else. That's the point of owning your own business, isn't it? Now, selecting an IMO, like we said, is a very, very important step. But it's not a step that if you mess up, means your career is doomed. There's such a thing called as a release with an IMO. And we're going to talk about a few red flags here that might want to make you think twice about signing up with one specific IMO or another. And one big red flag is if that IMO refuses to provide you with an upfront release. What do we mean when we say a release? Well, a release is a document that says you as an agent have a contract with Life Insurance Company A through IMO A. You want to keep working with Life Insurance Company A, but you don't want to work with IMO A anymore. You don't want to work with your middleman anymore. For some reason, they've upset you. Maybe they weren't paying you a good enough commission, you got a better offer elsewhere. Maybe you had a personality conflict with a wholesaler, whatever. Point is, you don't want to work with your middleman anymore. You as an independent agent should have the ability to move your contracts whenever you want. If you request a release from your upline, from your recruiter at your IMO, then they should release you immediately and allow you to place your contract with a different middleman. That's the definition of a release. When an IMO releases you, you're free to place your contract with a different middleman, with a different IMO. If your IMO refuses to provide you with a release, well, you're stuck. And that can be inconvenient if you wanted to leave because there was a personality conflict. It can be really irritating if you wanted to leave because you found out you could get 20% higher commissions somewhere else. It could be absolutely infuriating and damaging to your career if you wanted to leave because you found out that the people that at that IMO were doing something that you didn't want to be associated with, and now you can't get out. It's important to maintain your mobility as an independent insurance agent. You should be able to move your contracts wherever you want. You are independent. The only real exception to this that's ever acceptable is if you owe what's called a chargeback debt. Now, when you write an insurance policy, obviously you're going to get paid a commission. And if you write an insurance policy with a monthly premium, you're going to get a commission each month, each time that premium is paid. Or, if you're getting your commissions advanced, you might get several months worth of commissions up front. Now, if you get those commissions up front and then your client cancels, obviously you're going to have to pay some of those commissions back. That's what we call a chargeback. And many IMOs are going to refuse to release you if you have an outstanding chargeback balance. Now, that's understandable, and that's pretty okay. But in just about any other circumstance, an upfront release should be something that your IMO is willing to give. You also don't want to go with an IMO that takes anything off your commissions for leads or training or support or anything. You as an agent, again, when you're going to an IMO, you should be looking to get the best commission you can and just about nothing else. Because literally everything else that an IMO can do for you, you can do better on your own, or you can find better unbiased sources to take care of it for you. You also want to make sure that this IMO isn't asking you to assign their commission or assign your commissions to them. That essentially, when you assign your commissions, what you're saying to the insurance company is, don't pay me when I write an insurance policy. Pay this guy, and then this guy's going to pay me himself. You're essentially signing your paycheck over to somebody else. There are very, very few legitimate reasons to do that. So, if you're selecting an IMO, you don't have to just select one IMO. Like if you find that you really want to get a contract with North American, you might, North American being a life insurance company, you might go over to one IMO A and say, I want a contract with North American. And then later, maybe you want a contract with Genworth, which is another insurance company. But IMO A doesn't offer Genworth contracts. So now you go over to IMO B and say, hey, I want a contract with Genworth, and they hook you up, they help you out. So now you're working with two different IMOs. And that's totally okay. You're an independent agent. You can do that. So long as each IMO, neither one of them is making you sign a contract that says, I will not work with another IMO, you're totally fine to do that. And it's really very, very common. Most agents work with multiple IMOs, multiple middlemen. Not only that, but some carriers will allow you to do what's called dual contracting. So for instance, let's say you as an agent, you went over to IMO A, and you said, hey, I want to get a contract for North American. And they hook you up, they get you a contract. Now, you've heard about IMO B, you think they're pretty cool, and you want to give them a try. You're already writing some business with North American, so you call them up and say, hey, I want a dual contract under you for North American. Now you've got a contract for North American under IMO A, and a contract for that same insurance company under IMO B. You're contracted with the same insurance company through two different middlemen, and you can choose which one you want to put your applications through, put your business through. It's a great way to test out new relationships and try out new IMOs without making a big commitment. If things go south, just don't put any more business through that number. Use the old routing number. So you can work with multiple IMOs. You're not going to be just stuck with a single IMO, a single middleman. And many insurance contracts are going to allow you to write for one company through multiple IMOs too. So there's a lot of flexibility here. It's not like you're going out and applying for a job. Don't worry about getting stuck with one. Alright, so we're getting contracted. We've picked out our IMO. We've got contracts sent back to them. We're just waiting for those contracts to be approved now, and we're waiting for marketing materials and all that good stuff to get back. In the meantime, there's some setup stuff that we need to be doing. You're going to need a CRM soon. CRM is a client relationship manager. It's a piece of software that's going to allow you to organize your agency and track vital data. And you, from day one, need to be extremely anal about tracking your data. You want to, every time you make a phone call or email, you want to track who you called, why you called them, when you called them, where you reached them at, what number, what email address, how you reached out to them, why you did, everything about the conversation you want to take details about. When you get a lead in, you want to make sure you know when that lead came in, mark the date it came in and how much you paid for it. You want to make sure you mark down every conversation you have with that prospect. You want to make sure at the end of those conversations you mark down too how, when, and why you're going to follow up the next time. Or, if you're not going to follow up, why not? This is important stuff. If you track this data, it's going to make an absolutely mammoth difference in your experience as an agent. It's going to make your career. Tracking this data from day one is going to let you see, I spent $500 on a direct mail campaign and made $750 in commissions. And I spent $1,000 on aged leads and I made $2,200 in commissions. So I'm getting 2.2 to 1 with aged leads and not nearly that good with my direct mail campaigns. Probably makes sense to spend the money I'm spending on direct mail on aged leads. Now, we wouldn't know any of that if we hadn't tracked our data. You need to be able to track the marketing dollars that go out and the commission dollars that come back in. And when those commission dollars come back in, you need to be able to figure out what marketing methods drew those commission dollars in, so you can know where your money is being most effectively spent and where your time and efforts are most needed. This is stuff you're going to really see pop out at you if you get a CRM that allows you to track this data. If you're an established agent and you're not doing this already, just humor me and start doing this. It's going to change your career. When you start really taking a look at the numbers and doing the eternal process of measure, tweak, and repeat to make sure that your marketing campaigns are toned as tightly and firmly as they can be, it's going to really make a huge difference in your career. And there's no point in spending too much money on doing any of this, by the way. All the stuff we're talking about, getting a CRM, the leads we're talking about purchasing, don't go out and pay retail for that stuff. Visit us at iliaa.org. We've got discounts available on CRMs, leads, dialers, direct mail, errors and omissions insurance, all that good stuff. All the stuff we're talking about you getting set up on today, visit us. We can probably get it we can probably help you get it at a cheaper price. So, we've got our setup here. Now we're going to talk about marketing. The key to success as an agent is a steady flow of prospects. See the people. That's your mantra. See the people, see the people, see the people. The more people you see, the more people you talk to about insurance, the more insurance you're going to sell. It's a numbers game, and it can be beaten. Start off, invest in long-term strategies from day one. If you go out to the Chamber of Commerce, you join your local Toastmasters club, you get a website built and start some social media marketing, that stuff is not going to get you leads next week. It's not going to get you leads 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks from now. But it's going to get you a tremendous return if you let it grow and prosper as it should. If you put your efforts into long-term strategies from day one, I know we all need quick money when we're starting. I know quick sales are necessary, and I know that these aren't going to bring them. But invest in these strategies from day one, because 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, you're going to be in such a good spot. You'll thank me. Short term, you can buy internet leads, you can buy aged leads, you can drop a direct mail campaign, you can prospect to your warm market or do some cold calling and get out there to a cold market. There's a lot of different ways that you can market yourself as an agent. A discussion on marketing, it would be a webinar series unto itself. Visit us at iliaa.org when you have a chance. We have in-depth webinars on every type of marketing method you see here that goes a lot more into how you can turn each one of these strategies into something that's going to return prospects to you that you can actually close. So visit us at iliaa.org. We'll go a lot more into depth about these various marketing methods, how to close the leads you get from these marketing methods. It's a lot of information. We don't want to take up too much time today on that. So, regardless of which marketing methods you're working on and making sure that you're tracking them to make sure they're being as profitable as possible, regardless of which one you've chosen, it's going to be a numbers game. Frustration is inevitable. You are going to have days where you don't like this job. You're going to have days where you think, oh my God, I'm never going to sell anything. It's frustrating. Traction takes time to gain. If you've never sold anything before, if you've never been in insurance before, you've got a lot to learn. You can't expect to be a master of this tomorrow. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a little bit frustrating at points, but that's okay. This is a numbers game, and you can beat it. If you get out there and put your nose to the grindstone on a day-to-day basis, you will succeed. If you don't give up, you will succeed. You are going to get out of this business what you put into it. It's going to be a constant effort, but you can do it. There are ways to make this easier, and the longer you do this, the easier you're going to find it is. You're going to be blown away 6 months from now at how much simpler this seems, at how everything is starting to fit together, at how you don't really have to think about the 101 level stuff now, and it's just automatic. And you can focus more on the 102 level stuff, and you'll see how that really brings your career up to the next level. It will happen. You've just got to give it time. And when you give it a little bit of time, and you start figuring out how you can get referrals, and how you can cross-sell, and how you can turn that one lead into 4 or 5 different sales, you're going to find yourself getting into a better and better spot on a daily basis. Now let's take a quick look at policy selection. And again, we go a lot more into depth into this particular topic and the others on the main website at iliaa.org. But for policy selection, the first thing we want to do when we're sitting down with a prospect and we're talking about their insurance needs and trying to figure out what type of coverage they're probably going to end up going with, the first thing we need to do is to determine their need. If someone is willing to talk to you about life insurance, and nobody does that for fun except for me, if they're willing to talk to you about life insurance, it probably means that they feel like they have some type of problem or pain or concern or something that an insurance policy can solve. So what is it? What makes them interested in talking about this stuff in the first place? What is their perceived need? So we'll figure that out. We'll talk to them a little bit and assess their health risk. We'll figure out their health history, family history, driving history in an attempt to eliminate as many carriers from contention as possible. And because if the guy's got a health condition that's going to prevent him from being underwritten with a certain carrier, there's no point in considering that carrier's options as being on the table. So we'll assess the risk, get all the carriers that aren't going to work out of the way, and then we're going to move into our fact finder. We're going to learn as much as we can about that client: financial history, health history, goals, dreams, hopes, desires, wants, fears, all that good stuff. If you don't have a fact finder that you use now, we've got a couple of templates on the website at iliaa.org that we can send to you. But what we'll do here, find as many facts as we can, learn how this client's insurance picture is being painted, and see if their perception of it is accurate. We came into this whole thing knowing that they felt like there was some need there, some insurance need. Now we've looked at their fact finder, and maybe their perception of that need was accurate. Maybe they were a little bit off. Maybe they need a different type of insurance, or more coverage than they thought, or less, or whatever. That fact finder is going to help you work towards the sale, because you and your client are going to be kind of going through their history together, and the logical conclusions that you draw are going to be real obvious. They're going to be right there in front of the client to see. So you find those facts, and then you ask for the sale. That's the biggest mistake new agents make, is they get through the fact finder, they put down the application, and they're nervous, and they don't know what to do next. Ask for the sale. So you've asked for the sale, they said yes, now let's get an application in. We're going to describe that application process to our client, and we're going to be really good at that because we're going to know our applications before we ever meet with a client. Make sure before you sit down with a client you know what your application looks like, where it needs to be signed, what questions are going to be asked, all that good stuff. You don't want any surprises when you've gotten all the way through a presentation, you're already filling out the application. At that point, the deal is just about done. You don't want anything to catch you off guard there. So know your applications before the meeting. Spend some time studying those. And then while you're filling it out with the client, describe that application process to them. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to take this application for insurance. We're going to send it off to that insurance company. Now this is not you buying insurance. You're applying for it. And what they're going to do is send back an offer. And they're either going to say, yeah, we approve your coverage as you applied for it. Here's your policy. Or they're going to say, you're a little bit healthier than you said you were. We approved you at a lower price. Or they're going to say, we approved you a little bit higher price because of something in your health history or your medical records or whatever. And, whatever it is, you can choose to accept that offer when it comes in. You're going to have to go through maybe a Paramed. You might have a medical records review. You might have a phone interview. The exact process is going to vary depending on what type of product you're selling and what the actual underwriting requirements are for that product. And the level of certainty with which you can give a quote is going to vary depending on the type of product as well. Like if you're selling a final expense product that has a PHI, a private health interview, that happens right at the point of sale, then you're going to know as soon as you get off that health interview whether your client's being approved or not, and at what level and at what cost. You'll be able to walk away from that appointment very, very confident in your quote. Whereas if you're writing a policy that's going to have to go through full medical underwriting, Well, we think we're going to apply at this rate, but, depending on what comes back with your lab results, what comes back in your medical records, it could be a little higher, it could be a little lower. The application process is going to vary. It's important to get that client comfortable with it so they know what's going to happen. And the best way to do that is for you as an agent to understand the process yourself on your end. If it's necessary, clients that are going through a medically underwritten policy are going to need to get a paramedical exam. Now, this is only for medically underwritten coverage. You're doing final expense or mortgage protection or whatever, non-med stuff, you don't need to do a paramed. But if your client is going with a fully medically underwritten policy, it's going to be required that they get a paramedical examination. Now, they don't have to pay for this exam. The insurance company is going to pay for it for them. And basically what you as an agent need to do is when you apply for a policy that needs a paramed, you get in contact with one of your paramed vendors and order that coverage. Now, it's really simple. You fill out the application for the insurance policy with your client. You and your client work together to figure out a date and time that's going to be good for an examiner to come over to their house for an hour or so, draw a little blood, do a couple of measurements. Once you guys get a time set, you go online to your paramed vendor, and there are, again, many different ones to choose from. You set up that appointment. The examiner is going to come out, take care of your client, get the lab results over to your insurance company, and when underwriting is done, that policy is going to get issued and you're going to get paid. Now, your client is going to need to do a couple of different things to prepare for that paramedical examination, and again, that's a little bit beyond what we want to talk about here today. Check out the webinar in depth on the site, the association site, iliaa.org. Titled Preparing Your Client for a Paramed. We go a lot more into depth about how to prepare your client for this part of the process and things you can do to help your client's lab results come back as positive as possible. So once you've put in that application, once you've got underwriting taken care of, it's time for you to do some case management. So you're going to sit back and you're going to follow that application through submission and underwriting. You're going to keep in touch with the insurance company that you put that app in with, make sure it's on track, make sure no outstanding requirements are coming up, or if the insurance company says, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this, you're going to make sure you're on top of it to get those requirements taken care of. And then once the policy is ready to go, you're going to deliver that policy over to your client, preferably by hand if you can. Delivering a policy to a client is a great opportunity to gather referrals. It's a real no-pressure thing. They've already made their purchase. You're going out there just to deliver the item that they've bought. Hey, I really appreciate doing business with you. It's been fantastic. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. And oh, by the way, who do you know that might be in the market for an insurance policy? Now, this, I mentioned another webinar a little bit earlier that's one of my favorites. This one is my favorite, though, the 5-Step Selling webinar on the Independent Life Insurance Agent Association site. There's a specific sales system that we teach, and it's not really, sales system is such a cheesy way to put it. It's a little process that you can use to kind of keep your sales presentation on track to make sure that you're getting as effective as a result as possible. Now, we go into a lot more into depth on 5-Step Selling, and it's dedicated a webinar on the association site again, but let's just cover the real quick highlights here. 5-Step Selling, like we said, is just a quick 5-step process that you can use every time you go out to sell an insurance product to keep things repeatable, measurable, and easy to do. Step number 1, uncover the problem. Why is your client here? What does your client feel can be fixed in their life by an insurance product? Step 2, restate that problem to your client. So, Mr. Client, if I understand properly, you want to purchase a life insurance policy because of X, because your cousin passed away and it left your kids stuck with a bill of funeral cost, or you're worried about estate taxes, or whatever. Yes, so you guys have agreed on the problem, they've stated it, you've restated it, you're both on the same page. It's time to form a verbal contract. All right, Mr. Client, you've presented a problem. I'm certain I have a solution for it, so what I want to do is ask you a few questions, figure out which one of these solutions I have is going to be the best fit for you, and I just want to know if, assuming we can find a solution today that solves your problem and fits your budget, are you ready to go in and get this taken care of? If it's a yes, let's move on forward. We've got a serious person who's got a problem they're interested in taking care of. If they're just wanting to kick tires today, hey, we can talk about this when you're serious. Form that verbal contract, say, hey, if I find this product that fits in your budget and solves your problems, you're ready to go? Yep, great, perfect. Going to go through that fact finder, learn as much as we can about our client, learn their full insurability picture, see what other types of insurance they may need, how accurate their perception of their current insurance need is, all that good stuff. We're going to present the solution to them, and we're going to ask for the sale. Again, This is a real quick rundown of this. We go into a lot more detail on the main site. But this is a real quick way if you're thinking about how do I organize my sales presentation to make sure that my client and I are on the same page throughout. This is it. You're not selling against a client here. You're working with a client to find a solution to a problem that you've both agreed on. It's a different atmosphere. It's a different approach. It's the right way to do it. And when you get to this asking for the sale part, it should be pretty much a no-brainer. You know what the client's problems are. You and the client have gone through a fact finder together and have pointed out and discussed these problems together, so it's not like it's catching them off guard either. You've shown them a product that solves these problems and fits in their budget. You know what their budget is because you've got the financial fact finder right in front of them. When you ask for the sale, it should be very easy. If you're having a little bit of resistance, here's a quick tip for you. You can use a little trick called the thermometer close. Again, a little bit cheesy little name, but it's what folks call it. You're talking to your client and you say, hey, so here's the problem you had. Here's a solution. Fits in your budget. You ready to move forward? They waffle a little bit. We'll use that thermometer close. All right, scale of 1 to 10. How do you feel about the solution I put in front of you? Well, it's an 8. All right, what would it take to get that solution to a 10? And this is a real good way to keep dialogue moving forward with your client. You're not going to get bogged down in the, oh, this is never going to work. This just isn't right for me. You're going to keep moving forward, keep progressing, keep finding a solution that you can both agree on. Now, you are going to run into a few common objections to the life insurance sale, and we'll go through these really quickly here. Again, you want to check out the main site for a little bit more in-depth webinar on overcoming these common objections. But real quickly, the big one you're going to hear is, I can't afford the premium. Well, here's the thing. If you can't afford the premium now for a life insurance policy, what's going to happen to the people you leave behind? Now, let's be honest. You're probably not going to die tomorrow. But God forbid, if it did happen, the results would be absolutely catastrophic to the people you love. You say you can't afford this premium. If you can't afford $50 a month right now, what's going to happen when you pass away and your income passes away with you? Your family couldn't afford $50 a month. Now your income's gone. They're in the negatives now. You can't afford to not pay this premium. So we can't afford the premium. There's two things that are at play here. Number one, we probably haven't spent enough time talking about the value of the policy. This is different than the cost of the policy. The value of the policy is what this policy is actually doing for the client. We're not talking about the benefit. We're talking about the benefit of the benefit. What's a life insurance policy? What's the benefit of that? It pays out a death benefit when a person passes away. But what's the benefit of the benefit? It's going to make sure that your family isn't left destitute. It's going to make sure that if it's a business insurance policy, it's going to make sure that your business doesn't go under if you were to pass away. It's going to make sure that your business doesn't collapse if a key individual passes. It's going to do whatever. You can't afford this premium? Well, number one, that's a failure on my part as an agent. I haven't established the value here. But number two, let's be realistic about what would happen if you didn't purchase this policy. You can't afford what will happen if you don't. You'll also frequently hear, I have coverage through work. This is a real common one, but it's pretty easy. Fact is, coverage through work typically is insufficient. Coverage through work is typically going to be a fairly small policy, $10,000, $30,000, $50,000, somewhere in there. And it's typically not going to be portable coverage, and it's going to be age-banded coverage. What does all that mean? Well, $10,000 to $50,000 is not a lot of life insurance. You know, it's a good final expense policy, but not much else. And if you're young and healthy in the workforce, chances are you can get a tremendous amount of life insurance for not a whole lot of money. It's something to take advantage of. You have coverage through work. All right, let's think about what would happen if you left your job. Is that policy going to come with you? 9 times out of 10, that's a no. Your coverage is not portable, and if you have group coverage, it's not going to go with you when you leave work. Sometimes it will, but 9 times out of 10, it won't. So we've already got a policy that's going to be insufficient for most people's needs. And it's a policy that if you were to leave your place of employment isn't going to come with you. So let's think about this scenario. You're at work, you have a stroke, can't do your job anymore, you have to leave. Your policy isn't going to follow you. You just had a stroke, so you're not going to be able to get new life insurance coverage. Your income is down because you weren't able to continue working at your previous job. You're definitely, like we said, definitely not going to be able to get that other life insurance coverage. and God forbid, let's say you had passed away from that stroke. That little bit of insurance that was left behind probably covered the cost of your funeral, but didn't cover the cost of replacing the lost income that your family had relied on. So yeah, you've got coverage through work, but there's a lot of holes in it. Probably going to be better to go on and pick up an individually owned policy. You may hear someone say, "I don't need it." All right, you don't need it. Well, it's what's your plan if you were to pass away? What's your plan to pay for the funeral? What's your plan to pay for the mortgage? What's your plan to pay for debt? All this good stuff. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I've got savings for that," or "I've got whatever for that," or my those I leave behind will take care of it. Why not take the savings you have now, set aside for that already, leverage those assets into more assets for life insurance? I mean, if you've got $10,000 sitting in the bank, and that's earmarked for your funeral expenses, and you're not going to touch it, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you take that 10 grand and put it into a single premium whole life policy, get $18,000 or $19,000 of death benefit, essentially double the money, and it's going to have a cash value too that you can keep accessing? You might hear someone say, "I'm leaving my house or my antiques or my boat or whatever. I don't need to leave them liquid assets. I don't need to leave my loved ones liquid assets because I'm leaving them something they can sell, something they can liquidate." This is an awkward situation to put people in. So basically what your client is saying here is, if I pass away, I'm not going to leave my family any money. I'm going to leave them the very last memories they have of me so that they can sell it off in a fire sale for half the value to scramble and try to replace the lost income I have. It's not a great idea. The benefit of life insurance is that it's available almost immediately. A death claim pays out very quickly. It doesn't have to go through probate like other stuff does. It doesn't get hit by taxes like other stuff does. You don't have to worry about the life insurance policy, the life insurance market being down. If the boat market is down and somebody left you a boat, well, you're out of luck. Somebody left you a house instead of money and say, "Oh, sell the house to pay for the funeral." Well, the house sits on the market for a year. That doesn't do you any good. If you leave behind assets that can be liquidated rather than liquid assets, it's a pretty difficult situation to put your loved ones in. So take those assets that you're leaving behind, leverage them now into a life insurance policy. Avoid all these headaches down the line. Avoid having your family have to go through and sell off everything you used to own because they need money right away. Avoid all that stuff getting hit by probate and income tax and all that good stuff by using a life insurance policy, and do it right. And sometimes you may also hear the objection, "I'm overwhelmed." And there's a lot of choices out there, and this is a valid thing to hear from an insurance client. "I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I've heard so many different things, so many conflicting pieces of information, I don't know what to do." Well, don't worry. I'm an independent agent here. All those different carriers that you've gotten different illustrations from and heard about different products from, I represent every last one of them. And the fact is, I know a heck of a lot about every one of those policies. And I want to learn as much about you as I know about those policies. And that way I can figure out which one is going to be the best fit for you. This is a great objection to hear. I'll admit you don't hear this one as much as the others, but when you do hear it, you really get to play the white knight and save the day. Now, I want to touch really briefly on cross-selling as well. If you're sitting down in front of a client and you're working with them to purchase an insurance policy, chances are they could have additional insurance needs. And this is the point of doing that fact-finding. This is why that fact-finding is so important. Because if you're sitting down and you're talking to a client about their needs and they say, "Oh, I really need a final expense policy. Really need it because I don't want to stick my loved ones with the cost of my funeral." So you sit down and you do a fact finder with them and you find out that they have a Medicare supplement plan and they're paying $30 more a month than they have to. Because Medicare supplement plans are standardized. If they have Plan F with a certain carrier and another carrier has that same Plan F for $30 a month cheaper, it's the same plan. They're federally standardized. They're not going to lose any benefits. If you do a fact finder with them, find that out, hey, that's great. You can flip them over there, save them $30 a month and get them the same benefit. That's $360 a year. If you're sitting down with a client and they're talking about, I want to get a little bit of insurance here to cover the mortgage on this house that I just purchased. Well, what about your income here? If you were to pass away, Mr. Client, your income would pass away with you. Do you want to up your insurance amount a little bit here to make sure that you've got enough to cover that possibility? If you're working with somebody on health insurance, it's an easy conversation to bridge from talking about family protection and medical bills to, health insurance is great and all. It's going to protect you from the cost of illness, but it's not going to protect you from illness itself. And God forbid if something were to happen and we were to pass away, we'd still want to keep your family safe and well insured and covered financially. Let's be honest, you're probably not going to pass away tomorrow. But if you did, right now without an insurance policy in place, the results would be catastrophic to the people you love. So, cross-selling is just, like we said, opening the door with one product, closing that sale, and closing an additional sale as well. We go a lot more into depth on that on the main site. If you're an established agent and you've already got a book of business, maybe you've written health insurance, maybe you've written property and casualty, and you want to add life to your portfolio, easy way to do it is call your existing book of business. You've got a list of clients there that already are willing to work with you. And just give them a call and let them know that you're expanding their agency and you were curious who they knew that might be willing to talk with you about a life insurance product. Now that does two things. Number one, it kind of recruits your clients onto your team. You don't want to turn into that agent that only calls your client when you have something to sell to them. You don't want to turn into what we call a buy or die agent. You only call them when they have something to buy or when they've died and need to deliver a claim check. Make sure you're staying in contact with your clients on a pretty regular basis so that when you call, it's not like, oh my God, my insurance agent's calling. No, call them up. Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm expanding my agency, and I was wondering who you knew that might be interested in talking about a life insurance product with me. And, you can polish that script up a little bit. We go more into depth on that as well on the main site. But the goal here is that you're focusing on referrals, not hard reselling to your clients. So it accomplishes two things, like we said. And the second thing there, after you've recruited those clients to your team, it kind of lets them know what you're doing. If they're in the market, they know now what you're doing. You didn't call them to sell them. You didn't call them to try to wring money out of them. You called them because they're a valuable client, because you like working with them, and because you want to work with more people like them. And, well, I figure, you're like you. I'd call you and find out who you knew that was like you. That's a flattering thing to say to a client. It's flattering to get a call that says, listen, you're really valuable to me. I've enjoyed our working relationship, and I'd really like to expand it. So focus on referrals. Focus when you're prospecting your existing book of business on referrals, not on hard reselling your existing clients. Believe me, they'll understand what you're doing, and if they're in the market, you'll know. Now, here's a quick list of best practices that you as an insurance agent should put into motion right away if you're not doing already. These are things that the top 5% of agents do that you can do too. Number one is insure yourself. If you're selling life insurance and you don't have a life insurance policy on yourself, you're a hypocrite. It's plain and simple. How can you expect your clients to believe in the value of a policy, in the necessity of an insurance protection plan, if you don't believe in it yourself? Insure yourself. Not only is that going to give you legitimacy to talk about these products, but it's also going to let you see how the process goes from a client's perspective, and it's going to get you a little bit more intimately familiar with how writing business works. Anytime you work with a client and they put in an application with you or send you a referral, send them a thank you card. Don't use send out cards. Take the time to sit there and handwrite out a thank you card, lick a stamp, put it on the envelope, and send it out to them. No one does that anymore, and it's really, really powerful to do. I remember once a client I worked with them, wrote him a policy, sent him a thank you card. We scheduled our biannual review because, of course, we're going to review our clients' policies every 6 months to make sure that coverage is still working for them and is what they need. And I remember going over to their house and seeing that thank you card still stuck on their fridge with a magnet. It was a very little thing, but it was, oh, that's awesome. It made me feel great. And it made me know that they had remembered me, and that, if they're ever on the phone, they're talking to their friends or their family or their colleagues about insurance, it ever comes up in conversation, I'm the person that's going to have top-of-mind awareness, and you can have that too. You want to make holiday calls as well, and this is something that every agent should do every year. When you get towards the end of the year and you're getting into the Thanksgiving and onward season, start making some holiday calls. You're not really calling together referrals, you're not really calling to make any sales. You just want to call your book of business and say, hey, I wanted to let you know that it's been another year with you as a client and that I really value you and I appreciate you sticking around. Thank you very, very much. It's a really, really cool thing to do. Your clients are going to love that. They are going to love the fact that you just called them and didn't try to sell them anything at all. And I will tell you, I do this every year, and every year this is how I pay for my Christmas shopping. Because I'm not selling anything to these clients. We're not even mentioning insurance half the time. We're talking about, their life and what they've done with their year. And the end of the conversation is like, hey, I wanted to mention to you, I got a buddy who's looking for a term policy or whatever. These little holiday calls are so non-threatening. They're such a great way to make a connection, a personal connection with your client. And they're going to return for you as well, even if you don't put a sales pitch in them. Keep organized, too. Those holiday calls you're making, those thank you cards you're sending out, this insurance policy you're writing on yourself, this is all stuff that you need to track. You need to know exactly the dates that they were sent, the dates applications were sent, how much you spent for a lead, how much commission you made from selling that lead, all that stuff. Keep it organized. A CRM is important. And a CRM is, with email capability, it's also going to allow you to make it really, really simple to send out a newsletter to your clients. Just a little mailing list to touch your clients, once every month, once every 2 months, just to kind of let them know that you're still around and keep that top of mind awareness. It's a real simple thing you can do that's going to boost your career. Dedicate yourself to education as well. The best agents out there spend a tremendous amount of time learning. If you sit on your laurels, you're not going to progress in this industry. There's a lot to learn, and I guarantee you don't know it all yet. I don't know it all yet. Nobody does. It's a lifetime of study, and that's why it's important to work with people who can provide a team of training and support for you to shorten this learning curve and to help you get out and get effective in the field even when you're still learning. Dedicate yourself to education. Make it a priority. And make sure as well that you're dedicating yourself to being as good a salesman as you can be. Don't leave money on the table. If you're sitting down with a client and you've gone through the presentation and they've purchased a product, ask them for that referral. And if they didn't purchase a product, ask them for that referral anyway. Don't leave money on the table. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to hear no? You're going to need to get used to hearing no. You're an insurance agent now. No is a common word for us. Ask for that referral. Ask for that sale. Ask every time. You're going to hear some no's. You're going to get some really profitable yeses, though, and it's going to much more than balance it out. Now, this has been a fairly long webinar, I'll admit. I'm a little bit hoarse, and I hope you guys are filled to the brim with education, because we've learned a lot here. We've learned how to get licensed, how to get contracted with different IMOs, how to get organized, how to get started marketing yourself. Once you've found a couple of clients from that marketing, we've learned how to select a policy for them and close that sale with a solid application and how that application process works. We've learned how to follow up that sale with a cross-sell and how to gain referrals after the fact. And we've learned a few best practices that the top 5% of agents do that you can do too to improve your career. It's a lot of information at once. And again, we've really just scratched the surface. It's a complicated industry in a lot of ways, and there's a lot to learn. Visit us at iliaa.org to learn more and to get more in-depth training about the topics that we've discussed here today. Every point we have touched on, we can go a lot more into depth on, and we have, and we will. Visit us at iliaa.org, get more in-depth knowledge about the points we've talked about here today, join up as a member and get some one-on-one training with us as well. You're going to have the career you want. If you work at it, if you put your nose to the grindstone, this is a numbers game. It can be done. You will do it, and you can do it really quick. So this is going to wrap us up for the 30-day agent launch plan presented by the Independent Life Insurance Agent Association. Thank you guys for joining us. Visit us at iliaa.org when you can for more in-depth training like this, and we look forward to seeing you.